Hey, it's Mike Hambright, back for another exciting Flip Nerd VIP show. Today I have with me Todd Toback, who is an active real estate investor that kissed his corporate job goodbye and has built a lifestyle that enables him to do a lot of things with his family and a lot of great things. He's done some mentoring and coaching, but primarily focused on just growing his business, and he's growing like wildfire. So before we get started with Todd, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days. Rates start as low as 9%. We'd also like to thank National Real Estate Insurance Group, the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Todd, welcome to the show.
How's it going, Mike? Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah, thanks for being on. So we got to talk a little bit before the show. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background? I know, like me, and there's a lot of folks, I refer to myself as a corporate refugee. I don't know if you ever refer to yourself as that, but was in the corporate world and just one way or another realized that is limiting you, and dove into real estate and kind of went from there. And tell us the longer version of that story.
Sure. Well, I think it goes back to everyone who's in the corporate world, right? It can go back to either when they got out of high school or college. Yeah. And all their friends, what are they doing? They're going out and they're like, hey, man, I just got a great new job and I'm making $35,000 a year. I'm making $50,000 a year, right? Yeah. And that sounded like a lot of money back then. Yeah. Right. So I was like, wow, that sounds great. Well, I remember I was going to school in Grand Rapids, Michigan at the time, and there was about 5 feet of snow on the ground, and I just had it. I just graduated college, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to California. So I took my 10-year-old Labrador Retriever. I took my 1989 Mercury Cougar, $300 in my pocket, and drove out to San Diego, California. And we're coming over the mountains of Colorado and coming into the desert of Arizona and California, and all of a sudden I saw the ocean coming over the mountains, and I'm like, oh, that's it, like freedom. Yeah. I'm going to enjoy the sun, the sand, and the surf, and my life is going to be, hey, great, just like it was when I was 18, 19, or 20, but now I'm going to enjoy this sun year round. Yep. And I'm going to get a great job, and life's going to be great. Right?
Yep. California dream.
In my mind. Well, a California dream, right? So I went, and my plan was to get a job with a pharmaceutical company. And so I got a job through a stroke of luck. I have no idea why they hired me, by the way. I had a C average.
By the way, are you from Michigan?
I'm from New York.
Oh, okay.
I'm from New York. But I had a C average, and I came from a small Christian college called Calvin College. Not that many people have heard of it. But I got a job working for Pfizer. And the thing that I learned from this experience was, it doesn't matter where you come from or, your background. The way that I found that job was I used to hang out in medical buildings, right? And wait for the sales reps to come in. And I was like, hey, I'm really looking to break into this industry. Yeah. Do you think that, you could get me an interview with your manager? And so I would say a stroke of good luck, but I guess it wasn't. I got a job with one of the best pharmaceutical companies out there. It was Pfizer at the time. Yeah. And their big flagship drug was Viagra.
Yeah.
And so I got this job, and I'm like, yes, this is going to make me happy, right? There's a lot of money that these guys make, right? They get a company car, and they get the best insurance, and they make close to $100,000 a year. And if I do this, I'm going to be free. Wow. All my friends are going to be jealous, and I'm living out in California. Well, about 6 months in, I was really excited, and that excitement started to wear off. Yeah. Where you're just like at a total lull. And a lot of corporate refugees, this is probably pretty common. You're like, is this all there is?
Yeah. Is this as good as it gets?
This is as good as it gets. So, the first reaction that people have is, hey, I just got to make more money. And that's going to make me happy, right? That's what, it's like you're looking for a change. And so that's what I did. I met my boss for coffee. And by the way, he was awesome. Really, really nice guy, and taught me a lot about sales and dealing with people.
Yeah.
But I said, hey, Derek, I said, I want a 50% raise. And he was just like, hey, thanks for asking, but that's not how the corporate world works. It's not happening.
Yeah.
And you're showing a certain corporate immaturity to even expect that. Like, it's not going to happen. And he said these words to me. He goes, should I continue to invest in you now that you know that this is the case?
Yeah.
And I got in my car. I was a little depressed, and I was like, And that question like burned in my mind. I'm like, am I wasting his time? Am I wasting my time? Where am I going? And I'm driving. I'm along the 101 freeway.
Yeah.
And out of the right-hand corner of my eye, I see a Barnes & Noble's bookstore. And I'm about 3 lanes away from the exit. Pull over. So I pulled over 3 lanes, and everyone's honking their horn. Honk, honk, honk. They give me the finger, and
Yeah.
And I just walked into Barnes & Noble's, and I got sucked over to the real estate section. I picked up a book called Multiple Streams of Income. Here we go. Reach for it. I have the original copy right here. I have the copy right here. This was it. And I remember actually it was signed by Robert Allen here on the side of
Awesome.
You can see that.
Awesome.
But I was so excited, and one of the things that this book told me to do, I read this whole book in like 2 days. I was so pumped, and one of the things it talked about was just finding a motivated seller, right? And I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was like, great, I can take on the world, and I know everything, right? So I went, and it says find those out-of-state owners. And for all the newbies listening, one of the best ways to find motivated sellers is to find people who own property in your area who live out of state. And so back then, there was no data sources where you could, the computer. This is back in like the 1999, early 2000, right? And some of the counties were online, some of them weren't. But in Santa Barbara, that's where I was living. You actually go down and physically and hand do it.
Yep.
So I went down. There were some donuts and some bagels, and I asked the lady at the front. I said, "Hey, I'm looking for out-of-state owners on properties. How do I do it?" So she brought these big old, catalogs, and I want to target the condo complex that I was living in. So I wrote them all down, and I found all the out-of-state owners, and I had like 46 names. And I'm like, wow, look at all these names. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
46 names.
You're going to get half of them.
I'm going to get half of them. Oh, absolutely. I'm going to buy 12 houses from 46 names.
Right.
By the way, if you're new, that we're being very facetious.
Oh, yeah. No kidding.
So I hand wrote 46 letters. And the envelopes, all I had in my house were the small envelopes. So I actually had to handwrite them, and then I had like stuff them in there, and hand wrote them and put the stamp on there. And out of that 46 letters, I sat over these letters, and I was like, I prayed over them. I was like, God, please let there be a deal in here. Say anything and ask anything in your name, it shall be given. And I was like just so enthusiastic, and I thought that I was going to get a deal. Well, lo and behold, I got one phone call.
Yeah.
Got one phone call from a couple who live in Bakersfield, California, and this is their vacation home. They never used it, and they're like, we want to sell this. And so they said, we'll meet you next weekend at the property. So I met them at the property, and I didn't know again what I didn't know, and I was really, really nervous. And they said, hey, you look kind of young. Can you afford to buy this property? And I'm like, yeah, I can come up with the money. And I just kind of faked it until I maked it. I didn't know how much of a discount that I needed, right? I just knew I got to buy this house as low as possible. So they agreed to sell me the house for $285,000. We didn't even write up a contract. We agreed to it verbally. And then we just kind of like sent back this like letter of on my word processor at the time.
Yeah.
We opened escrow. And I knew the property was worth at least $100,000 more than that. So I started calling up everybody I knew. And by the way, I didn't even know wholesaling was at the time, and I didn't know you could lock up the property without closing. So I was actually looking for the money for this property. And so I called my dad, and he said no. And I called up my brothers. They said no. I called up my friends and other family. They said no. And finally, I got my brother-in-law. He says, I'll do it. So he went and he put 20% down, got a traditional bank loan. We bought the property. While we were in escrow, we were selling it.
Yeah.
And we people who really, really wanted the property, and there was a bore on it. We sold it for $379,000 3 days after we closed. There was a 30-day escrow after that. Wow. But basically, long story short, I made $40,000 on my first transaction.
Yeah.
And my brother made $40,000. And I'm like, whoa, I'm never going back.
Yeah.
Never going back. But here was the problem. And we're going to get into this later. That $40,000 was awesome. But my corporate job actually made me soft, right? Because I still had that salary coming in, so I wasn't hungry, right? So I bought it, it took another 5 years after that for me to quit my job, for me to realize, wow, this is not what I want to do, and I'm wasting my life. And then finally, when I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's when I made the move and became a full-time real estate investor. So that's the long story short of how I broke out of corporate America.
Yeah. And a lot of folks, we talked about this a little bit before we started, is there's a lot of folks that have an interest in real estate investing, but they never even take it as far as you took it. They never get out of the gate. They say they're the armchair type folks that, I really want to do this, or I really dislike my job. And it's such a shame that they never make that move when the opportunity's there. And there's some folks that, much like your experience, have a bad experience on their first deal. They overpay for it. They don't know what they don't know, and they somehow lose money on it. And then they say, I'm never going to do that again. All these people that say that there's an opportunity to, live this incredible lifestyle, or, not have to work for the man for a big company or even a small company. And they just delete that opportunity from their mind because they lost on their first try. And now it's not what everybody says it is, or it can't be that way.
Right.
And so what do you think differentiates, you and some other successful people, and you've mentored some folks too. What differentiates the people that do get out of the gate and do make something out of this from those that never really do?
One word. Hunger.
Yeah.
Hunger. I'm not doing coaching anymore. Our real estate business is it's going crazy, right?
Yeah.
But I've coached people in the corporate environment who were making, $10, $15, $20,000 a month. And I'm like, oh, great, this person's got money for marketing, right? They're interested. They're got maybe some sales experience. They're going to do really, really well. And then I've coached other people with no money, right? Yeah. No resources, no network, and nothing. Okay. And I've seen many times, most of the time, a lot of those people do better than the people with a few bucks in their pocket. Yeah. Because their nice salary is making them nice and cush. Yeah. Right. Let me tell you a quick story. 2 stories. I had this guy, Michael, call me one time, and he called me. He's like, I want your course. Now, I used to be in the lease options a long time ago. We love wholesaling much better now, but I sold the lease option course, and he goes, Todd, I want to lease options. Really hungry. I'm living in my car and I have no money. I have to make this happen.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I think I was selling it for $600 or something like that. And he's like, but I don't have the money for your course either. He's like, I have $200 and, will you let me make payments? I said, sure. So he sends me the money order for $200 and he says, I'm going to send the other $200, in a couple of months. I'm like, there's no way I'm getting this money back. He's not going to pay me the other 2 payments and I'm probably never going to hear from him again. Right. Well, anyway, 6 days, he calls me later. He's like, I got my first deal under contract. Right, I got my first deal under contract. Boom, he made $6,000 on this lease option. And then he did another deal and another deal and another deal and another deal. And this guy was hungry and he made it happen. And I got the $200 money orders, paid off the course. Yep. And, he became a raving fan of the business and he did awesome. Fantastic, and, it was just that. And he just wanted a change, right? Versus people who sometimes they think they want it, right? They like the idea of becoming a real estate investor. Yeah. But they're not willing to go through what Seth Godin, there's a great book called The Dip. Yep. Have you heard?
I'm familiar with it. I haven't read that one. I actually just ordered a Seth Godin book today, but that's not the one.
Okay, well, a lot of people they're listening. Right now, someone's listening to this podcast right now, and they're so excited. They're like, I'm going to do this, and this is great. And I want to make 7 figures a year, or middle 6 figures, whatever that is, right? Or $100,000 a year. And or they're at their seminar, and they're really, really excited. And what happens is maybe there's a roadblock, or maybe a friend tells them, you shouldn't do that. And now they're at that dip, like it's a roller coaster, right? And most people will never come out of that dip to get over the hump. But once they get over that hump, it's like that momentum's going to take them forever.
Right.
But they can never get past that dip. That round of bandit signs they didn't put out, or the mailer that they didn't get the response that they thought they would, right? Or a competitor stealing a deal, or even maybe the initial fear of sending out your first 1,000 postcards. You know, they never got past that. And so I think that's the biggest thing is, number one is fear, right, in action. But two is the hunger. They're missing that hunger. And I would say that only, a small portion of people have that. Right now we have a sales team who locks up deals for us, right? And I have a little practice that I decided that I was going to do. And for the second interview, I'd made people show up at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? Guess how many people I've gotten to get to show up at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Probably very few.
0 so far, right? And I'm like, breaking the real estate, right? And I'm thinking like, there's got to be somebody. And so this is something that we're just trying and seeing if we can't pull anybody out. But for now, what we're looking for in our organization is, I don't care where you're from, what your education level is, how good you think you are, right? Show me. Don't tell me.
Yeah, I use a different word. I mentor and coach a lot of folks, and I often use the word hustle. This is a hustle business. And one of the challenges is that so many real estate, gurus and folks that make their living selling education rather than actually doing, they make it sound like it's too easy. You just have to decide to do it, and then you can go to the beach and collect checks, and you never really have to work that hard. And it doesn't work that way for me. I've always had to hustle, and this is one of those businesses that you could make a lot of money on one deal, but when that deal's done, you've got to go do it again. It's not, you have to just, keep hustling, and you can build processes and systems and things like that to kind of expand. But in the beginning, you got to be willing to roll up your sleeves and work hard.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The word that we use around our office too is sense of urgency, right? Sense of urgency. So for me, Mike, and let me say this, I haven't met with a seller in 2 years, right? And I don't really meet with our cash buyers to sell them properties. Our team does that, but I'll go out for coffee sometimes with these guys. Yeah. But somebody is hustling in our office, right? So whether it's someone on our team, right? And so you're not going to start out either by having other people run your company for you, right? When you're first getting started, you're right. I mean, you're going to get those calls in, and you got to get on the phone and work it and pound the phone. And if someone's hungry, get out there today. Don't be like, yeah, I'm available, on Thursday if it's a Monday, right? I mean, you got to attack it. And so that's like a gut instinct, which, you have it right now. I could tell, just by what you're talking about, where it's like, hey, there's real money on the line, and you've got to go and get it.
Yep, absolutely. So talk a little bit about your business. I know you primarily have been operating in San Diego, and now you're taking over the world. And so talk a little bit about how you've expanded, talk about the early days, and then how you've been able to grow that, because one of the challenges that all small businesses have is finding good people. You've just talked about it a little bit, but finding good people, and finding people, I'd say in this business, is tricky when it comes to like sales guys and folks like that, because sometimes they invariably start to think, well, what do I need to work for him for? Why can't I just go do this myself? Talk a little bit about kind of building a team with those issues.
Okay, well, let me talk about what I used to be. Okay, I used mess. They struggle with this, right? Where Ron LeGrand has a great course. He's got like this 3-part system where it's like, you're the rehab person, you're the wholesaling person, you're the retail person, and you're the option person, all this other stuff. And you also do rentals. And that's the person I was. You name the deal, I would do it. Yeah. Right? Well, when you do that, your business is like a huge cluster. And you have all these things going on, and you can't really like hire and train people because there's too many processes and too many variables. And one day I had a coach, and he was just like, write down all your streams of income on the wall. And I wrote down them all. And we wrote down like the revenue and the hours that it took. And he's like, what's that one? What's that one right there? And I'm like, oh, well, that's wholesaling. He's like, well, that generates a lot of revenue, and it looks really easy. It's simplest. Why don't you just do that and get rid of everything else?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, no, I don't want to let go of these streams of income, and
Right.
and I didn't want to do it. Well, he's like, do it. I was paying him money to coach me, and he's like, do it. Trust me. He goes, you'll be able to hire people. You'll be able to train them. You got a laser focus in what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I did it, and it was scary. Best decision I ever made. Best decision I ever made, because now I became, from being a real estate investor to really just focusing on marketing. And I knew that if I could hire a salesperson and a team and let them have unlimited income, right, and say, okay, look, if a house is worth X, we can pay X. And that's it. I mean, that's it really. Gave them the script, and we're coming with cash offers. And I know we're leaving money on the table, right? But I've simplified the process. My mind is clear. My sales team is clear. I can create easy processes, right? That'll fit on one sheet of paper.
You're saying you're leaving money on the table in what way? Because you're not considering retail.
Yeah, like I'm not doing like a lease option anymore. Or I'm not doing rentals and anything like that. Or I'm not doing like owner financing deals where I
could potentially pay a little more for a house. You're saying,
and pay a little more for a house, right? But then I have to have a whole new process of selling that property. Right. And now it's so much harder to train someone in what I do. Right. Because I knew that my goal for my lifestyle, I have 4 kids, is I started this right before I had my 4th kid, where I'm like, you know what, lifestyle is more important than the business. And so I have to simplify by hiring other people.
Yep.
And hire other people and have them, and especially with salespeople, you have to get them making money within the first 30 to 60 days. And if not, you're going to lose them.
Yeah.
So for me, that was really, really important, is to simplify that process so that I could hire somebody to help me with the business.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. So we were here 250, at 2.5 years ago, but I was working like a dog, and my wife wasn't pleased with me, and I wasn't pleased with my business. And I'm like, I might as well go and get a sales job, because I can make this much selling, but not take it home every night. And, that's when I had to decide to make the change, right?
Yep.
Well, now our wholesaling business is a couple million, right? And I'm working about 20% as much.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's the first thing is, you guys think about simplifying your business, addition by subtraction, right? And a lot of guys may think, for me, it was like I had to let go of my ego. Well, wholesalers is just a beginner's game, right? And a lot of people think that. Well, that's okay. We flip hamburgers and we love it.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing. The second thing I would say is, that scarcity mindset could take over, where you're like, well, why does this person, need me, right? Or why should I work for this person? Well, the biggest thing is your leadership means a lot, right? So you're doing marketing, so you should be doing marketing for your team. If you're not, maybe you're not offering enough value.
Yeah.
2, you need to provide excellent training. The worst thing you could ever do is hire a salesperson and say, okay, great, here's some calls, go lock up a deal.
Yeah.
Right? That's a huge mistake, and I've been guilty of it. I mean, it's a great way it's called orphaning a salesperson, right? We're like, hey guys, welcome to the team. Here's our database, your phone calls, kill it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. You have to have a specific onboarding process where you're working with a sales person. You're role playing every day. You're teaching them how to use it every single day. You're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And that training is a real benefit to them. So A, leads, B, training. C is, I would also consider hiring 2 to 3 people at a time. In the sales arena, if you're providing leads, you can hire people 100% commission because you're offering so much value. Now, if you're not offering value through A, marketing, and B, a training program, well, you have to rethink, why are they going to come work for you? Right. Right. And that's the thing, that big mistake I made was when I first hired one of our first team members, I had like this picnic table. Right. and there was like I brought it from home into my office. It was like a little barbecue sauce on it. And then my sales rep came in and he's sitting, and we called it the barbecue table. We joked around, and I'm like, how is this guy going to take me seriously? Right. You know, like, this is through some miracle, Brian stayed with me, and he's helped us grow, and now he's loving the processes and training. Yeah. But it was like, you have to ask yourself, who am I, and what is my company that I'm going to attract people and offer them enough value so that they could do better here than someplace else.
Right. And I know you're operating in different markets. So do you have boots on the ground in those markets, or are you trying to do it all centrally?
No. So in San Diego, we noticed that we're doing about 35% of our deals right over the telephone. Right. And so we're like, okay, well, why can't we do 100% of our deals over the telephone in the other markets? Yeah. So now we're basically
without actually seeing the house, you're saying?
Right. Without seeing the house. Right. Now we're going to be pretty aggressive in what we can offer for the property.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to understand we're not rehabbing. Right. So we can afford to make, mistakes without losing our shirt.
Yeah.
Right. So after we lock up the property, you can send out someone out there on the ground to go take pictures of the property so that you could then proceed to sell it to one of your cash buyers. So eventually you have to have someone go out to the property. Sure, it doesn't have to be you, but it have to be someone on the ground there, or a company who can go out and do it. And there's a lot of different companies who will go out and take pictures of your property.
Yeah. So if you find out,
called, if you want to,
go ahead.
There's a company called WeGoLook.com who will go and take a look at pictures and take pictures of your properties for you.
That's interesting. So if you go out and it turns out that the rehab is much worse than you estimated or whatever, do you just go back to the table and try to negotiate or terminate the contract? Or
Yep, go back and renegotiate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. So talk about, one of the things we talked about a little bit before we started today was just the lifestyle, and you've got a whole herd of kids in your house, and realize how you might be missing out on things if you work too hard. Talk about the balance between, kind of having a successful business and having a successful lifestyle, and kind of having that balance. It's something I struggle with, in all honesty.
Yeah, it is. So I have a good friend, Joe McCall. Do you know Joe McCall?
I don't think so. The name sounds familiar, but
he has another podcast, and he's another real estate investor, friend of mine. And he did, to my knowledge, his real estate business isn't as big as mine. But the coolest thing about Joe, and I've looked about him, is that we're speaking sometimes about business, and he'll hang up mid-sentence. He's like, I gotta go. I'm with my kids, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, right? And he's always like, oh, I'm sorry, I had to go. I was with my kids or my wife or something like that. And I really have always admired that about Joe. He's always got his priorities straight. It doesn't matter what's going on, but that's his family is his focus. And so one thing I've learned about me is the more money that I make, the more money I want. Right. So there's no amount of money that's going to be at the end of oh, I've arrived.
Right.
I've arrived. Right. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
So, the one thing I'm really working on right now is we have a team who runs the business. But we're also just taking a lot of time to really, really enjoy the benefits of the business. So if you're making $100,000 from your real estate business, it's enjoy that. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. And so now something that we've done is we take 8 to 10 weeks of vacation every year.
Great.
We put it in the calendar right at the beginning. We block it out. Even if we don't know where we're going, we just put it out in the calendar and we're gone. 8 to 10 weeks.
Yep. That's awesome.
Even if it's a staycation. And that's something that we really, really, really enjoy that we do. So for me, that's one thing. And then what I'll do is every fourth week, I will work only until every fourth week that we're not on vacation. I'll make sure that I'm home from the office no later than 3 p.m.
That's cool.
That entire week.
That's great. That's great. I'd like to try that.
Yeah. I mean,
it's always interesting hearing, I think of a lot of things that I want to do, personally, but then it's time to go and it's oh, I still have to finish this. I haven't talked to that guy yet. I haven't done this. And there's always, it never ends. It never ends. My list is never complete, which I'm sure yours is the same way. But
it's not. It's a great book, by the way. A great book you should read. Have you heard of The One Thing by Gary Keller?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my good friend Zach and Tamara Peterson, they're from our church. I picked it up. And it talks about, look, if you just focus on the most important thing that would make a huge difference in your life and your business, what would your business look like?
Right.
Right. Now, this is different for everybody. So if you're brand new, right, your one thing is probably calling up a postcard company or letter company, sending out letters, and then getting on the telephone and talking to sellers, right? That's your most important thing. Not setting up an LLC, not going to RIA meetings, not ordering your business cards, right? But just getting on the phone. Right. Once your business matures, it's about hiring and training people.
Yep.
So my one thing right now is hiring and training the best talent. And that's it. That's the only thing that I should be doing. And everything else is inconsequential because I shouldn't be doing anything else.
Yeah.
Right. It's just hiring and training. And once you do that, it helps you block out a ton and clear your mind. So I've had like a lot of opportunities to do things, right? A lot of people ask me for mentoring or coaching or, and I'm like, I can't. And they've offered to pay me a lot of money, but it's not part of my one thing right now. And even though someone would pay a lot of money for that, well, still I have to return a phone call on an expeditious matter or an email on an expeditious matter. So there's one thing that can clog you, or your brain, or that one contract that you'd have to speak with. So I'd ask everybody, if you're in your business, to think about that one thing. And I mean, for me, again, if you own a business, hiring and training those right people probably is like a universal answer for a lot of people.
Right. Yep.
to do that. And so I've been really happy with the results so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good tips in there. The one challenge that a lot of folks have is just actually doing what it is that they know in their heart that they need to do.
Yeah. So if you're new, I can tell you right now that one thing is just ordering some letters or postcards or bandit signs and getting on the phone.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters. Not more education, not cards, not whatever it is you think you need to do, right? It's not it. And whatever guru course you bought, okay, they're great. Most of them are really good. Use the card. Don't try to sit here and rewrite it or do anything like that. Just send it out and make it happen.
Yep. Awesome. Well, tell us how folks find out about your podcast, and obviously the same named website as well. But if they want to learn more, they want to follow along, hear some more of your stories and some more of your lessons on how to be more efficient and how to be successful in real estate.
Sure. So check out, so realestateinvesting.com, nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com. That's our website. And our podcast is the same on iTunes. If you head on over to our website, map I give away. I call it the No Limits Wholesaling Map Massive Action Plan. And in that plan, I talk about how to go from doing your first deal or no deals, right, starting with nothing, to scale up your business to up to 7 figures in 6 months or less. Now, obviously, most people won't scale their business that fast, okay? But I'll give you the plan to do that, right? And your road to be able to scratch and claw your way to your first deal, right? And then do a few more and get some more capital, invest it, and then hire some more people. And so the question is, I'm in a challenge, is no matter what I say or do or what Mike says or do, there's only going to be a small portion of you who are hungry enough to make it happen.
Yeah.
Right? So whoever's the most hungry is going to go to that site right now. They're going to dig and they're going to pull a list and they're going to mail out to a motivated seller.
Yeah.
And they're going to listen to probably every one of Mike's podcasts and my podcast on the way to work and just crush it. So that's where you guys can find more about me. And I would love to hear from you. And that's pretty much it, Mike.
Awesome, Todd. Well, hey, I appreciate you being on the show. Appreciate your story here and kind of how you went from a corporate schlep to a real estate mogul.
Can I give you a quick compliment, Mike?
Sure.
So, all the listeners here, I could tell Mike loves processes. He's, successful for a reason. So when Mike booked me for an interview, I got a email from his assistant with like this 8-process thing, what I needed to do next. And I was like, oh my gosh, if this is not done, and then the whole another link to something on how to like make sure the quality of our video was really, really good, you know. And meanwhile, that was working for you while you were sleeping, right? And I really, really enjoyed that. And so the reason why Mike, and I'm sure you have that in your business, is successful is, you know, no accident. And you have that, you know, that picture of the you know, Flip Nerd in your background, you know, just another layer of branding and professionalism that you've added to your business. And so just want to compliment you. I think that's really great.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. And there's no doubt that, you know, what we're trying to do here on the show, as I kind of told you beforehand, is just really kind of provide some education, some knowledge to the world, and get a chance to meet, you know, awesome people with great stories like you that will openly share your story and tips on how to be successful and stuff like that. There's a lot of folks out there, and I'm blessed to, you know, have folks be meeting folks that want to share their story. And I believe in karma, so I know it all comes back around one way or another for everybody. So
very cool.
That's what we're doing. Awesome. Well, appreciate you. And all the links that we talked about, we'll have that below the video for anybody that wants to find you. And I definitely would encourage everybody to go check out Todd and learn more about what he's got going on, because he's got some good stuff going on. So thanks, Todd. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Mike.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry, so get on over to FlipNerd.com.